You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC report only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening. Coming up, we'll run back Week 11, get you set for Week 12, including our Spotlight Game of the Week, featuring Cincinnati and SMU. Brian Fox of Bearcats Sports Radio will join us to talk about that in just a few moments. Number 17, Houston has secured its spot in the AAC championship game. Alden McCaskill rushed for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns as they downed Temple 37-8. The aforementioned Cincinnati Bearcats can join them with a win over SMU in this week's contest or East Carolina in the season finale. The Bearcats remain unbeaten with their 45-28 win over South Florida on Friday night, keeping those college football playoff hopes intact, where they still sit on the outside of the top 4 at number 5. Keaton Mitchell scored on a 24-yard run in overtime. The Pirates broke up the conversion pass to send East Carolina to a 30-29 win over Memphis, and that makes the Pirates bowl eligible. Shamari Brooks, a 15-yard run in overtime, allowed Tulsa to escape with a 20-13 win against Tulane. The Green Wave had a chance to win in regulation but missed a chip shot field goal with 4 seconds left. SMU gained a season-high 631 yards as quarterback Tanner Mordecai went 37 for 54 for 377 yards and 3 touchdowns. And running back Trey Siggers added 3 TDs as SMU routed UCF 55-28. Looking at this week's slate, it kicks off Friday night, 9 o'clock on ESPN2 as Memphis visits Houston. The Cougs lead the all-time series 15-14. Memphis won last year's meeting 30-27. On Saturday, South Florida Tulane, that's a noon kick on ESPN+. The Bulls lead the all-time series 8-1, and they won the last meeting back in 2018. East Carolina at Navy, 3:30 on CBS Sports Network. The Midshipmen lead the all-time series 7-1 and won the last meeting in 2018. UConn at UCF, 4 o'clock ESPN+. The Knights lead the all-time series 5-2, and they whooped up on UConn 56-21 back in 2019. Temple at Tulsa, 4 o'clock on ESPN+. Temple leads the all-time series 3-2 and won the last meeting back in 2018. One more game to talk about, and we'll do that in depth next. Brian Fox, Bearcats Sports Radio, will join me to talk about Cincinnati hosting SMU as our Spotlight Game of the Week. That's next when the AAC report continues after this.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, our Spotlight Game of the Week this week. The SMU Mustangs and the Cincinnati Bearcats, as Cincy is on its quest to make the college football playoff. Joining us now to talk about that and more is Brian Fox, our friend from BearcatsSportsRadio.com. Brian, thanks for being on the show again.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to join and talk about this historic climb that the Bearcats are engaged in.
Yeah, so no doubt about that. And so before we talk about the upcoming game this weekend, let's talk about a game I call on this show, how will the CFP screw Cincinnati this week? As Cincinnati still sits in the number 5 slot behind Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, and Ohio State. But I think there's a little silver lining in there that they moved Notre Dame up to number 8. The Irish, of course, beaten by the Bearcats, and that's the only loss that Notre Dame has suffered. And Houston, who they will likely face in the AAC championship game, has finally cracked the top 25 in the CFP, so a chance to add another quote-unquote quality win into that category. Give me your assessment of the Bearcats and how this college football playoff flirtation is going.
Well, I would say the flirtation has been kind of one-sided. We continue to win games. Now, look, I would be remiss if I didn't, acknowledge that since we played at South Bend, the tape that we've put out there, we have not put away teams that we probably should have. We, had a bit of a hiccup against Tulane on the road, and then, Tulsa at home. So neither of those games were beautiful. We have not been the belle of the ball. I wouldn't say the last several weeks, but we've won, and we're verging now on 3 years of near perfect football, and so I think the committee is going to do what it's going to do, and my hope is that there's enough of a national outcry, there's enough of national media figure outrage that they will feel a absolute horror and shame if they don't include us after going undefeated this season. The problem, of course, is financial, and as much as you have of the 13 college football playoff committee members, 5 of them are athletic directors for Power 5 conferences, and there's a direct financial benefit to each of them if they vote a team from their conference into the college football playoff. Now, their recusal policy states that if their team, that their school, that they're the athletic director for is involved, then they have an obligation and a duty to recuse themselves, but not so if it's another team in their conference. And as we all know, each team that goes to the college football playoff gets $6 million. Most of the programs are going to get, are going to take $2 million of that off the top, and then $4 million, the balance goes to the conference. So it's hard to argue that when that happens, that they're not voting on a direct financial benefit to their own athletics budget.
Yeah, and of course that recusal thing is kind of, to me, also a little bit of a wink-wink kind of situation.
Right? Yeah. It says that they're, under the recusal policy, they have to only answer factual information about the institution that they're the athletic director for, which is hysterical. Like, what factual information is Gary Barta going to provide with respect to the University of Iowa?
Right. Yeah, no question about that. So it has certainly been an interesting dance. We certainly know that here in Orlando, with the Knights having been through that scenario, winning 25 in a row and still not getting in. And, in Cincinnati, you can argue, their run. I look at it this way, UCF had great offense, average defense. Cincinnati has a dominant defense, and while they're not the prolific scoring team the UCF was, they still can be explosive.
Yeah, no question. And when you compare the journey, I think when we played UCF earlier this year, there was an obvious awkwardness between the programs, right? Because you've got a team in UCF who had 2017 and 2018
Yep.
consecutive seasons where they played pretty dominant football, and then didn't get considered for the college football playoff. And, there was the weirdness where Mackenzie Milton is trying to compare resumes and act like the 2017 team, I believe, or maybe it was 18 team that he said it was better than the Cincinnati team. And what I wanted to communicate is, hey, UCF fans, this is not your year. You guys know it's not your year. This is our year. And you guys got jobbed in 2017 and 18. So let's all unite and rally behind the Cinderella story that the College Football Playoff Committee is intent on preventing from, reaching its crescendo ending. Mm-hmm. Now that awkward stretch is past us, I'm really hoping that the UCF fan base can rally behind us, as much as it might pain them to do that.
Yeah. Well, of course, the Bearcats certainly dominated on the football field with a 56-21 victory over the Knights, which was their last big offensive explosion. They had the back-to-back games where they blew out Temple and the Knights, and then Navy. They make a game ugly. They've played everybody close all season long. Yep. And that's going to be a tough game on your schedule, no matter how good you are. And then, as you mentioned, the Tulane and Tulsa games. It's just a shame that a group of 5 team has to be graded on winning by style points, where a Power 5 team does not have to be.
Oh, right. Yeah. If you're Ohio State and you struggle against Rutgers or Maryland, there's no concern. But if you're Cincinnati and you struggle on the road in Annapolis against a team that, Navy is, it's a well-coached team, and they know when they don't have the athletes. Some years, obviously, they spike and they have the athletes and everything is kind of, perfect. But on many occasions, they know they don't have the athletes, and so they're, they can spread the ball out and they can control clock and chew clock by those long, steady, sustained drives that they're famous for with that triple option. And, they can really make a game ugly, and they can make it really hard for an opposing team to run up the score. And I feel like there was some accordance for that. But when we went on the road to Tulane's a bad team. They actually took a page out of Navy's playbook and tried to do a very similar kind of read option / triple option approach. And they stretched the game out as well and chewed through clock and made it hard for us to rack up a bunch of points. And then, I can't even describe what happened against Tulsa. Tulsa's a team that was competitive with Ohio State down to the wire, as a team that has competed pretty well. And they're, I can say, hey, that Tulsa team is better than their record, but it's hard for the voters to not see that Tulsa is really the same team as Nebraska, right? Nebraska's record's awful. And I keep hearing about how Nebraska's is the greatest 3-7 team ever, or whatever. And it's like, well, a team like Tulsa's played everybody pretty tight too. And the record might not reflect that, but they've got an enormous offensive line. They have I love a team that runs a fullback out there, and I can't think of the name of the big back they use, but that guy was a force. He was fun to watch, even when he had our guys on roller skates. They were trying to stop them. So, it's going to be interesting to see what the committee does. I think it's going to be, they put us at 5 if Ohio State loses at home to Michigan State. Obviously that opens up an opportunity. I think Oregon still has, they've played a lot of bad football, and I feel like there's a lot more bad football left for them to play. So I feel like that is an opportunity. And then, of course, you got Georgia and Alabama. And if Georgia beats Alabama, then you got a 2-loss Alabama team. My gut is if status quo remains and the committee's picking between an undefeated UC and a 2-loss Alabama team, that we're going to get screwed. But That's my gut. I mean, they put a 3-loss Florida team ahead of us, and then we went down into the Peach Bowl and lost to this supposedly dominant Georgia team that, of course, just like they said to UCF fans, well, Auburn wasn't really playing, they weren't playing their best guys and yada, yada, yada. It's just an exhibition game to them. And, it's really unfair. And it's such a strange phenomenon to see the college football powers that be actively antagonizing a Cinderella story. In every other sport, the UCFs, the Cincinnatis of the world are a team that everybody is kind of, rooting for. We all love that 5-12 game in March Madness because we all want to see that 12, shock that 5 team. Not so in football. Everybody's just tribal and obsessed with, preserving this, 11, I think there's been 11 teams total since 2014 in the college football playoff. And so they're just trying to preserve that hierarchy, and it's crazy. It's ruining the game.
Yeah, and certainly fuels that conversation for people wanting expansion. And I want to get your thoughts on ESPN College Game Day coming to Cincinnati for the first time. I found it not to be a coincidence that they showed up in Cincinnati after the first poll. So that they could play both sides against the middle to generate conversation. I've never had a weirder feeling because I have been a fan of that product, right, of college football game day for so long. And then, when the first rankings came out, it was like, of course they're going to come. And now we're going to have to deal with them setting up on our campus and dunking on us, for the better part of 3 hours. And so, it was neat for our fans. Everybody, we really packed it out. And I think that was a meaningful thing for a lot of the ESPN folks. But I couldn't help but feel like it's a concession. You cannot distinguish between, the line between where the College Football Playoff Committee stops and the powers that be at ESPN starts. ESPN pays $430 million a year to broadcast for the exclusive broadcast rights of the college football playoff games, the bowls. So, they're in, to say they're in cahoots, to say they're, in a partnership, a collaboration is an understatement. Nobody puts that kind of money on the line without it being a business decision more than an emotional decision or a justice decision. And then you look at, you look down the road and you've got, why is suddenly Cincinnati and UCF have an opportunity to join the Big 12? Well, ESPN signed a deal with the SEC, and by the terms of that deal, they're going to pay, I think, $130 million a year for the exclusive broadcast rights to cover SEC football. So what did they do? They went and they meddled behind the scenes. Probably they talked Texas and Oklahoma into bolting, and the Big 12's loss is Cincinnati and UCF's gain. But again, if you're making $1 billion business decision in your ESPN, you're going to do everything in your power to prop up that product to make sure that the SEC doesn't become the Pac-12, right? Mm-hmm.
That's a nightmare scenario for those executives that they make they bet on the SEC and suddenly you see some sort of dilution like what's taken on the Pac-12 where none of the teams are good. There's too much parity. There's not enough dominance. Now, I don't think that that's a real risk that you run with the SEC, but I do think that it's impossible to back out and extract the business decisions that are behind all this stuff from the actual analysis and the justice component and find that, there's not if not an overt attempt to box a team like Cincinnati out, but there's certainly a wink and a nod at times.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they can't fix the games themselves, but they sure can fix who's playing in those games. So,
right.
Yeah.
And they do this magician's trick, this sleight of hand thing, right? Where they might, the concession might be, well, all right, fine, we'll bump Cincinnati up to 5, but then they don't rank SMU, right? They don't put SMU in the top 25. They just finally moved Houston, right, into the top 25. But in order to buoy a really weak Oregon team, they prop up, the Fresno States and the San Diego States in order to accomplish that. So they might, kind of on the nose, they bump us up to a higher spot, but really behind the scenes, they're setting things up so that we can't get a high quality top 25 win.
Yeah, and going back to College Game Day for a second, as you mentioned, the UC folks really did show out for that, and I love seeing that scenario, especially when they go to new places and teams that are worthy of them being there, because they went to Georgia twice this year, and there's hardly anybody there, because they've been there 50 times already. So it's really nice to see when they do take the show to these types of schools that are in the up and coming phase, if you will.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the last time they were at Georgia, there was, they showed the crowd, and there were, it had to be less than 1,000 people there. And when you looked at the sizable crowd that Cincinnati had, it made game day seem more legitimate. And I think, there's nothing that our fan base can do to really put a dent in the product that they're offering. It's too ubiquitous. They're too big. They've got too much scale. But I hope that we did send a wake-up call, when Bear comes on to, I don't know if you know the character on Game Day that I can't think of his real name, but, when he gets on there, he's been really negative about, the Bearcats, and he's been really negative about our conference. So anytime he was on there, he was getting booed. And I know that Desmond and some of the other folks were reacting to that, kind of surprised. It's like, hey, man, I don't know what world you've been living in, but, this isn't Ohio State and this isn't Michigan. We're not sitting here in this soft cushion cocoon of Power 5. We're out here on the streets making it happen. And so we're bitter. We're frustrated.
Yeah, Chris Felica, of course, who you're referring to, the Bear from College Game Day. So let's talk about the game this week, and this is definitely a contrast in styles. SMU will probably be the best offense Cincinnati's faced all year, but likewise, this will be the best defense SMU has faced all season.
Yeah, it's going to be a good matchup. SMU, they set up as a team that that has had some quality wins, especially early in the season against. They got over the top against TCU, and then. Lately, they've slipped a little. They gave up that game against Houston, which was a great game to watch, and then Memphis got over the top. So, if you look at the transitive properties, they played UCF about like we did. I would say, we probably got a little bit. We got over the top sooner against that UCF team, but that UCF team also was coming off some injuries in some key areas. So, so they are a good team. I wish they hadn't given those games up against Houston and Memphis, but I think it's going to be a great opportunity to see. This season so far, we've played up to the competition when we've played against some Power 5 teams. That IU team is not the same IU team that it is now. At the beginning of the season, they came in with a lot more dignity and a lot more strength, and they've just like any team that collects losses early in the year, they look way worse now. Like they looked way worse against Ohio State than they looked against us. Mm-hmm. And we really played. I'm a little concerned that we peaked on October 2nd against Notre Dame in South Bend, because when we played that game, it wasn't even close. We had that game in hand early, and we're pretty dominant. So I'm hoping that same dominant Bearcats team can show up on Saturday. And boy, do we need it. Boy, do we need a statement win here, because, that there's not much left. We go on the road against ECU next week, and, nobody's going to care what happens there. There's no upside in a game like that, right? We beat ECU by 60 points. People will go, yeah, ECU. And there's only downside. If we play a tight game against ECU, it'll be like, this Bearcats team isn't that good. And doesn't this one-loss Michigan team deserve to be in there over us? And, they'll flip the script. I wouldn't be shocked based on what they did to Michigan State and Michigan, mm-hmm. Where you had Michigan State who beats Michigan, and then somehow Michigan is now, steadily ranked ahead of the team that beat them a couple weeks earlier. There's a part of me that's like, boy, the ultimate jobbing of the Cincinnati Bearcats would be for us to get boxed out of the playoff and then to leapfrog Notre Dame in over us.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, but it sounds crazy, but I would not put it past them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the UCF fan base is like, but I'll tell you, the Cincinnati Bearcats fan base and the city of Cincinnati sports fan bases, right? Bengals, Reds, even FC Cincy, even, Bearcats. We all kind of are. We live our lives celebrating wins, but always expecting the other shoe to drop. Mm-hmm. And there's so much a part of our DNA is expecting the worst sorts of things to happen. Kenyon Martin to, tear his ACL, right? And, all of the kind of historic Cincinnati sports moments that are supposed to be epic that suddenly just fall apart. We're just kind of all live waiting on that to happen. And so, I think there's a big portion of our fan base that is just fully expecting that this college football playoff committee isn't going to give us a shot no matter what we do. But yeah, if we can win convincingly against SMU, I think it helps. It certainly doesn't hurt. And then beating up on ECU and then getting back to a conference championship game, against Houston might, if Houston can do its job on the other side of the conference, right, that would help us out a whole lot. But, who knows? Yeah. There's a lot more parity in the American Athletic Conference than anyone wants to give it credit for.
Yeah, absolutely correct on that. And was the conversation with the USC opening and Luke Fickell's name being associated with, has that been any distraction at all?
No. All of the other jobs that have come available and that are likely to come available, those are more distracting than the USC job.
Yeah.
Luke's got 6 kids, and I wouldn't say he had the absolute best rapport with a previous athletic director. I mean, it certainly, there wasn't animosity there, but it's not like they were buds and super close. And so I don't look at that opportunity and think that that's the sort of thing that Luke and Amy Fickell are going to uproot and move their 6 kids out to LA. So he can coach out there. Now, the jobs that do scare me are Penn State. If James Franklin were to take that LSU gig, that gives me some concern. There's about 4 or 5 jobs that freak me out. And, Ohio State obviously being one, but Ryan Day's great. He's doing great. I'm cheering for him, sort of. So Luke will stay. Notre Dame is a job that I think Luke would take. Very devout Catholic. I could see him jumping at that opportunity. Penn State is on that list. Wisconsin would be on that list. Luke just strikes me as a Big Ten guy. I don't know why, but those Big Ten jobs seem to be the sort of thing that he would be drawn to more than some sort of like large cultural shift out west or even down south. And then
he coaches Cincinnati like a Big Ten team.
Yeah, he does. We get on top, and he's not a light up the scoreboard guy. Once we get on top, he deploys the Jim Tressel strategy of, it's like Moneyball, right? They bunt, pick the ball up, throw it to first base. Don't try to be a star and throw it to second. Mm-hmm. Let them make the mistake. And once he gets a lead, he's not the kind of guy who's like going to keep throwing on it. He's going to grind it out and make sure he gets the win. It's one of the reasons we've been so daggone successful all these years with him, is because it's a lot more about, X's and O's than it is about flash. And so, I could see him jumping at some of those opportunities, but we'll see. There's still a lot of college football coaching carousel decisions left to take place, and so it's hard to say. I don't think any of those things are a distraction right now.
Yeah, and of course, getting a move to the Big 12 is a promotion of sorts for him anyway. Yep. So
right,
that's a good.
He makes $3.5 million now. They're gonna shake the sugar tree. I mean, he's gonna make more. I don't know how much more, but I bet they get him close to $5 million at Cincinnati, and $5 million a year is a whole lot of money to coach and to not have to uproot your family and your 6 kids scattered throughout.
Yeah.
So I could see he did hire Jimmy Sexton as his agent, which it gives me a little concern because that's typically he's an SEC allegiance kind of guy. But I think Luke Moore hired him to make sure that he gets the best possible deal at Cincinnati. That's my gut.
Okay. Well, outstanding, Brian, as always. We certainly appreciate you coming on and giving us a lowdown on the Bearcats. And if you would, let the audience know, for those who haven't been able to check your work out and covering the Bearcats, give your shameless plug.
Sure, yeah. BearcatsSportsRadio.com is a website. On Twitter, @BearcatsRadio. And, they can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Outstanding. Thanks again, Brian.
All right, thanks. Take care, Jeff.
SMU in Cincinnati, 3:30 on ESPN. The Bearcats lead the all-time series 4-1 and were victorious in last season's meeting 42-13. The Offensive Player of the Week, Tanner Mordecai, as we mentioned, had 37-54 for 377 and 3 touchdowns, also 33 rushing yards as SMU blew out UCF. The Defensive Player of the Week, Justin Wright of Tulsa, they held a defense, their defense limited Tulane to 308 yards, 12 first downs, and 1 for 14 on third downs. He had a game-high 12 tackles, including 10 solo stops and a tackle for loss. And the Special Teams Player of the Week, Owen Daffer of East Carolina, career-high 12 points in their 1-point win over Memphis. 3 for 3 in field goals and 3 for 3 on PATs as well. All right, more news and notes. We'll talk about men's soccer in the AAC Championship and the women's teams that have moved into the NCAA Soccer Championship. That's next on the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Nightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up the menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Tulsa secured the 4th AAC Men's Championship in their program history as the top-seeded Golden Hurricane defeated number 2 seed UCF 2-1 on Sunday at Hurricane Stadium to capture that title. They have now added that hardware to the prior sweep of the championship in the 2014 through 16 seasons, and they're the third 1 seed to win the American Men's Soccer Championship, joining SMU in 2017 and UCF in 2020. UCF forward Gino Vivi captured the tournament most outstanding offensive player with a tournament-high 3 goals and 7 points. Tulsa's Till Zinhart was the most outstanding defensive player after logging 1 assist and helping guide a back line that surrendered just a single goal the entire tournament. Tulsa now a number 6 seed in the 2021 NCAA Division I Men's Soccer Championship, and they've received a first-round bye into that 48-team field. As the automatic qualifier from the American, they will face the winner of Creighton and Missouri State on November 21st. 3 teams from the AAC, Memphis, South Florida, SMU, all earned selections to the 2021 NCAA Division I Women's Soccer Championship. Memphis used 3 second-half goals during its first NCAA championship win since 2011, with a 3-0 win over LSU. The Tigers now face number 1 seed Duke. That will be on Friday in Durham. SMU used early goals in both halves to earn a 2-0 win over Texas. The Mustangs will now face the number 1 seed Florida State on November 19th in Tallahassee. And South Florida's season came to an end Sunday as NC State defeated the Bulls 2-0. Volleyball, with 2 weeks remaining in conference play, 2 teams remain in the running for the regular season title and the conference's automatic championship bid to the NCAA tournament. Defending champ UCF, winner of 11 straight matches, pushes record to 15-1 as they battle South Florida on Wednesday, the day we are recording this podcast, in a War on I-4 matchup. Houston picked up its 6th straight win to keep pace with the Knights 13-3 on the season. The Offensive Player of the Week, well, tell me if you've heard this before. It's McKenna Melville of UCF as she continues her impactful offensive play as she had 5.67 points per set, ranked 8th overall, 4.67 digs per set, and hit .294 with 15 kills and 14 digs in a sweep of Memphis. Added a .351 hitting percentage with 17 kills and 14 digs against SMU. The Defensive Player of the Week is Morgan Stout. Big performance for them. 16 total blocks, 2 blocks per set. Chipped in with 3.25 points per frame in shocker victories last week. Turning now to men's basketball, now that the season is underway, the Player of the Week is Marcus Sasser of Houston. Back-to-back 25-point-plus games in opening wins over Hofstra and Rice. Had 25 against Hofstra, 26 against Rice, and has also averaged 4 assists per contest. Dating back to last season, Sasser has recorded 4 consecutive 20 plus point games. The freshman of the week, Amani Bates, he had 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game in a pair of victories for the Tigers last week. Women's basketball, the player of the week is Kira Levy of Cincinnati. She is averaging an even 15 points per game and pacing America with 7.5 assists, 4 steals per contest in their 2-0 start on the season. And the freshman of the week, Tabira Poindexter of Tulsa, with a dynamic debut for her, a game-high 23 points in a victory for the Golden Hurricane over Duquesne on November 11th. And Commissioner Mike Oresco has announced the hiring of Carl Hicks, one of the nation's foremost basketball administrators, as Associate Commissioner for Basketball at the AAC. He will serve as the primary administrator for the American men's and women's basketball programs, including oversight of scheduling, officiating, and game operations, as well as compliance with NCAA governance. He will serve as the commissioner's liaison with men's and women's basketball coaches at the Americans' 11-member institutions and oversee the conference's annual men's and women's basketball championships. And that's going to do it for this week's show. As always, give me a follow on Twitter at JeffAllen_88, and you can also follow the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. This has been the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.